Note the beautiful detail of these maps, which were usually lithographed in Vienna, and the red building to the left is the castle, no longer in existence, surrounded by English gardens. And here we have a detail of the Jewish cemetery, which is donated by triangular symbols for graves as opposed to crosses for Christian cemeteries in the overall map. In some cases, these maps are the only way to determine the location of the cemetery if it's no longer in existence in the town. So anyone doing cemetery restoration in these smaller shtetls would want to have a cadastral map so they could see the exact borders of the Jewish cemetery, and if someone built a house on the land or if a field encroached on it and you wanted to put up walls, you would be able to map the borders so you didn't construct a wall leaving bodies outside of the cemetery. So in this case, we know that at this time and place in the 1850s, this is exactly where the Jewish cemetery was. So now we're coming to landowner records. And these hold detailed information about the type of land, plot size, and various house owners in the shtetl. In May 1869, there was a Crown Land Tax Commission created in Lviv with subcommissions in Krakow and Ternopil to determine the profits derived from all the fields and to establish a corresponding tax. The commission's appraisals generated a journal for each landholder, and they came in many different forms. So we see here the Zhimailov Land Records book. This is just an example, an entry from Mark's Leib Abraham. Most of these records are stored in the Lviv Historical Archives, and they list the landowners in the community. It's a community record, not a Jewish record, so you have Christians and Jews together listed. The forms are bilingual in Polish and Ukrainian, and the Ukrainian version is printed in Church Slavonic characters rather than Civil Cyrillic, but the names are very readable. You get a copy of this book, you can easily make out, in most cases, the handwriting, which means they're easy to index, which is what we're doing. Here's a copy of the Brody landowner records from 1883. We've translated some of the headings, so it's a little clearer for you to look at. And below there's a guide to the size of the land, so you can know if your relative owned a big plot, several plots, or a tiny, tiny plot. Just another example from the Brody records. It's also another way to find relatives. You may see many people with the exact same surname listed in these landowner records. Now here we also have, as a companion piece, the Brody voter list. This voter list is found in the Ternopil archives and also at the Central Archives in Jerusalem. So we have two locations for this record, and you can see it's very useful. It gives the house number. It also gave the birth date and the profession. And usually the place of birth, which is very useful because not everybody lived where they were born. And if you're looking for your vital records and you can't find them in a town because you always heard you were from this town, it could be that the family moved. Very often the men moved to join the wife's family or vice versa after marriage. Here we have land being transferred to Fega Rosenberg. So again, women's names do show up in these records, which is quite important. Now here we have an alphabetical book. Sometimes the names are on one page. Sometimes they're listed alphabetically. Here we have, can we turn that phone off? Thank you. If everyone turns their phones off, that would be great, if you haven't yet. The landowner record book for Karlovka, 1880. Now you can note that Abraham Leib Pikar's last name, Pikars, is a profession. It means baker, and was most likely chosen for that reason. Many people ask, how were the names chosen? Why do we have so many German names? I think you know that the Austrian officials, when they created the edict that Jews take surnames, had to be in the German language. Sometimes it could be a profession, sometimes it could be a composite name. But if you had a professional name, such as baker or stallkeeper, you were allowed to keep it. Now here's a collage I put together of the maps and a variety of records I got for my town. The question is, if you're interested in being part of the Landowner Record Project, you first would look up to see if we... Hello? We have added your town. If we have an inventory for your town, you could see if we already have records for it. If not, the way our program works is we get a $250 donation from one person or from a group of people. We add matching funds of our own money to create a project where we can get started hiring researchers to explore the records. Logically, smaller shtetls will be less expensive than larger shtetls. If there were 2,000 people in your town, it will cost more to photograph those records than a smaller town. Then we index the information, but you also can get actual photographs of these documents. We're going to take a little side trip to Vienna because, as I said, you need to look further afield sometimes for your records. And in this case, I'm starting at the Austrian State Archives, where I did a search on Galitzia and Jews, and I actually was quite successful and found several things, including the Kriegsarchive, which is the war archive in Vienna, holds boxes of photographs taken by Austrian soldiers during World War I. Many are of military scenes, but others show the town square, businesses, soldiers parading, washing, and remember the Jews were also in the Austrian army. You can see the construction of the houses, the thatched roofs also. Do you wonder how your relatives felt when the soldiers marched through their town wearing those funny hats? These photographs provide a special visual record of your town available nowhere else. This one is an overview of Pukac, taken circa, right. I'm always pronouncing that differently. This is the fountain, circa 1914-1915. Tarnov, 1914, the soldiers marching through the town. You actually see how the houses looked. Very few of us have photographs taken actually in the shtetl. We'll go through these very, very quickly because I know we have limited time. The town square. Kolomea on the river. See the houses as well. More thatched roofed houses. The market and street, and you can see the people gathered around. And here we have the marketplace. This is a great photograph. You really get a feeling for the people in the marketplace. And then I zoomed in, and you can see the buildings, the names of the people on the buildings. These are very high-resolution photographs. And again, we went through the Kriegsarchive to see a selection, and they actually have more, and we'll be putting these up on our website as well. And here we have lumber being sent down the river.